And it's interesting that, you know, you did involve yourself with so many different artistic disciplines in a way, and again, that has been such an important part in your life. I mean, you went from you know, being chief executive of a classical orchestra to then, of course, co-founding Create, and that is such an extraordinary thing that you have provided for the country, really. You know, what really made you take the action, I suppose, to almost, I suppose, I was going to say be in the comfort zone of an orchestra, but it is very high pressured and you really don't know what's going to happen, you know, with funding and one thing or another, and dealing with all different types of egos and you name it. But, you know, to make that decision, which I know you started in your dining room.
That's right. So when I was at the orchestra, I was very passionate about taking music out to people who probably wouldn't get access to it, and so I set up projects in prison, in a homeless day centre. We set up a programme working with young people who'd been excluded from school. We were going to visit older people in day centres and working in schools, so a really wide range of projects. But we were an orchestra, and as a result the projects had to be music, so I was going to people and saying, would you like a music project? And then in 2002, I had a vision for a charity that would work across the UK, across all of the creative arts, with anyone who was experiencing challenges in their life. And what that meant, when I started Create, it meant that I could go, for example, to a young carers organisation, and rather than when I was running the orchestra saying, would you like a music project, I was able then to say, what are the challenges that your young people are facing? What are you as an organisation trying to achieve for your young people?
Yeah.
And by listening to what they needed, and by understanding what the young people wanted to do, what art forms they were interested in, whether particular themes that they wanted to explore, that meant that we could design projects very specifically for the people that we were going to be working with. And even though, as an example, we're now working with around 20 young carer services, it's just one of the many strands of work that we do. Every project is different, and every project is co-created with that service, and it's absolutely driven by what the young people want to achieve, or the older people, or the prisoners, so whoever we're working with. By listening to what they want and what they need, that's how we design and deliver our programmes.
And it's so interesting that, because so often we're trying to make something fit into a situation, and it doesn't always work, or certain elements may, but it is interesting how that listening aspect, you know, what do the people need, and the demographic that Create targets is absolutely huge. You know, it really is large, and I feel that Create is relevant to us all. You know what I mean? In that we can all benefit from that, whether you're one of the people leading a project or a participator of the project. I think that it's a win-win situation all around, surely.
Totally. I mean, it was interesting because the Arts Council's new 10-year strategy came out yesterday, and I read the strategy from front to back, and their kind of flagship thing was let's create. And of course, I mean, as an organisation where our ambition is creativity for all, I just thought, absolutely, let's create. We all benefit from both making art, but also visiting galleries or music or whatever. And I think for me, thinking about creativity, it feels a lot more accessible than the word the arts, which I think can put people off and maybe suggest things that are kind of a bit more highfalutin, but I think everybody can look at the world in a different way, maybe through a camera lens, or can come together with. There's a young carer that we've done a lot of work with, and she did a filmmaking project, and she was telling me that she now, on a weekend, she drags her sister out into the yard with her camera and they make films.
Brilliant.
And her mum, actually, I spoke to her mum last night, and her mum was telling me that, you know, she's really interested in exploring a career in film, film producing or something like that. I think I think creativity is just so important in terms of allowing us to think outside the box.
Yes, absolutely. And see people differently, you know.
Yes.
I mean, you mentioned the mother, you know, talking about her daughter's experiences, but the ripples that, you know, are created, basically, you know, all of the positive things that are then ignited to other people is quite amazing, really. And do you think that the diversity of this demographic made you more aware of how we adapt and interact, and therefore, I suppose, listen to each other, especially if the spoken word can be a barrier? You know, it's sometimes difficult for people to express themselves or to describe what it is they're feeling or wanting, or even what they want to create, but there's always another medium.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the creative arts and being able to use the breadth of the creative arts for people to express themselves allows people to speak without using words. So, for example, we're running a project in the South London and Maudsley Mental Health Trust adolescent unit called Snowsfields. And I went to visit a project there. We do a number of residencies across the year where we work with young people. And I went to visit a project a few months ago. And one of the things that struck me when I went in there was that every single young person had really serious self-harming marks on their arms. And one of the young people had a ligature burn around her neck. And these, for me, were kind of outward expressions of the inward pain that they felt.
Absolutely.
And we took a professional ceramicist in, and the young people were working on ceramics all day, and at the end of the day we invited them to take their pieces and put them on the table. And there was one young woman, she'd been working on a bust all day, and when she turned it round, I was just utterly stunned. I thought, if I needed one single piece of work in the 16 plus years since founding the charity, this would symbolise for me why we should give people a voice who feel they don't have one. So this clay bust, it has a kind of a furrowed brow and a tear, and then where a mouth would be, there's just a huge cross.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And this young person so clearly was saying, I don't know what she was saying. I feel I don't have a voice. I feel no one's listening to me. This piece of ceramic is saying to the world what I feel I can't say.
It's extraordinary, isn't it? That's actually very moving, and I think you need time to think about something like
Absolutely.
that. You know, and it's often just a really simple symbol, you know, a simple image in a way, you know, across over a mouth is that says an awful lot. The depth of that message is quite extraordinary.